Hey guys, what's going on out there? Hope everybody is staying safe. Listen, we are going to be looking at some games from the great Mikhail Botvinnik in his prime years, which the man himself said were in the 1940s. So I'm gonna make a playlist. Mikhail Botvinnik. We're gonna be looking at some games from the white side at first, and then I'll shift to the black side. But we are gonna focus on the years between 1940 and 1950, and we're gonna take it one or two games at a time. We're not gonna make a big, hour and a half long compilation video. This first game is from Leningrad, the Soviet Championship. Yes, that's the when there was a Soviet Union back in 1939. With the white pieces, we have Mikhail Botvinnik going against Vasily and Panov. Okay, one of the founders of the Panov attack. All right, Carol Khan. So the game started out e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, knight c3, knight f6, and we have the four knights game, right? You don't see this game played too much, not because it's bad, so to say, per se, but it just has a drawish reputation due to the symmetrical nature, right? White is just simply tempo ahead, and it's just not enough usually to secure an advantage. Bishop b5, so just all mainline stuff with this veiled attack right on e4. Bishop b4, so black just follows the symmetry as long as he can. Castles, castles, and now d3 is played, and so now white must make a choice. Excuse me, black must make a choice, either protect this pawn by d6 or play some other move whereby white is threatening to take this pawn after just simply playing bishop takes c6. So a lot of similar themes to the Rui Lopez here. Black takes. This is all mainline stuff. B takes c3. And we can see already there's some imbalance now created in the position. What we have now already, the first imbalance I want to mention is the two bishops, right? In exchange for the double pawn. So black has obtained the bishop pair. Um, excuse me, black has inflicted double pawns, a compromised pawn structure on white, but he's given white the bishop pair in the position, and this will dictate the play in the game. The strategy for both sides will revolve around this, right? Black having the better pawn structure in the two knights versus this damaged pawn structure that white has in his possession of the two bishops. All right, so a big broad umbrella strategy for black would be pretty much to try to keep the position closed and try to create some outposts for those knights, right? For the knights to be better than the bishops in these kind of positions, the position uh, would need usually to be of a closed nature, right? Which would stymie these bishops, right? Because they need open lanes, diagonals to show their power, right? Just like the rooks need open files to show their potential. The knights need outposts to show their potential. So, for instance, getting knight here or something like that, or say if these pawns were going off the c file, having a knight here, right? Outpost or a knight's dream, right? So that they can move up the board in a safe manner. Conversely, white wants to open the position as much as possible so his bishops can shine and utilize their long range potential. Game continued d6 and now bishop g5. So all common stuff in the four knights. Botvinnik just simply pins the knight to the queen, and he's gonna make preparations in the center for d4. All right. So queen e7. And this prepares another common maneuver, clearing out the d8 square, so this knight can hop back to d8 and then come out to e6, hitting this bishop. So rook e1, knight d8. Rook e1 prepares the advance d4 by fortifying the e pawn. So now d4, knight e6, and now bishop c1. So Botvinnik wants to preserve his bishops. C6, bishop f1. After all, he has double pawns and in a compromised pawn structure, so he has the bishops to show for it. So he wants to hold on to that. If he loses the bishop here, then he basically has a compromised pawn structure for nothing. Going back after knight e6, bishop h4 is also possible here. Okay, but then say black might hop in with a move like knight f4, and then at some point even play this move g6 and harass this bishop a little more. So bishop c1, just kind of like leaving the options open. Was played c6, bishop f1. So we see that white preserves his two bishops, right? And he has more space in the center. But he is a little bit behind development here. So um, it puts black in a kind of weird situation where okay, he has a lead in development, but he really doesn't want to open the position per se, because then the bishops would become stronger. And this is like a question that comes, appears a lot over the chessboard, where you have these type of situations. So you just kind of have to make a concrete assessment of the position in each situation. Here, Panov plays the move knight d7 here, and now Botvinnik plays this move g3. It prevents this move in the future. Remember what I was saying, that black wants to make the position conducive to his knights by creating outposts, and he would also kind of like to keep the position closed if he can, to shut down the potential of the white bishops. So g3 keeps the knight off of this square, and if you look at the board right now, it's hard to figure out where is a good place for the knights to go, and so Panov is working on that problem right now. Where are the knights going to go? All right. Now for the bishops, it's not exactly clear where they should be, but all that will suffice for now is that they do have plenty of scope, right? There's some semi-open files, nice diagonals all over the place, especially for this dark square bishop. The c1 diagonal, there's the a3 diagonal if need be. This bishop is on a nice diagonal. This f1 and a6 diagonal can also go to h3 if need be, so, or g2. So there's scope in the future, whereas it's hard to see where to put these knights past the third rank. So Panov plays c5, and he puts more pressure on the black center here. Excuse me, on the white center. Again, d5, for example, is playable, but again, to me, this would be more conducive to what black might want, right? Because now we can see clearly that this light square bishop becomes worse with those pawns on the light squares like that. After c5, Botvinnik just opened the position. He took d takes e5, d takes e5, and notice again, now he has 3 pawn islands, but the compensation exists in that the bishop here and all of the open lanes that go with it. I want you to take a look at the position now, and briefly, I'm just going to point out to you that there's the main problem in this position for black is the weakness on the d5 square. f5 is a little weak also, right? And you can see that black's knights don't have any outposts. They can't do anything. So here you can see that these pawns are very annoying, right? They're weak in principle and idea, but black really hasn't found an adequate way to exploit them. These knights don't have anywhere to go, and they're kind of bogging down black in his development. Like this bishop can't go anywhere because the knights don't really have a place or a home. This pawn on c3 is very strong as it takes an outpost away here. This pawn on g3 takes this outpost away. So now what Botvinnik starts to do, and notice how he's playing in the center constantly. He sees the weakness here in the position. This is like the main weakness, d5 and f5. So he starts to attack that weakness. All right, knight h4, with the idea of just simply coming to f5. Now, of course, that's not just he's just not making one move and not having a plan after that. He anticipates Panov's next move in g6. What does g6 do? Of course, g6 weakens the king side, right? This gives more scope for this bishop now. Right? In the future, it's always nice to have a fiend kettle and your opponent doesn't have a bishop, right, to place on a g7 square, right? So he compromises position a little more just to stop this move, but now watch this maneuver. Knight g2, now knight g7 from Panov. Knight e3. And now this knight is coming right here. Look at that nice maneuver by Botvinnik. Knight f6, attacking his pawn. Bishop g2. And notice how everything is just coming together on this one square on d5. Bishop e6. So we see now that black is fighting for this square, for the d5 square. Of course, he wants to bring the rook on the d file, hitting the queen. Very strong move by Botvinnik. c4, rook a d8, and now he just simply gets off of the d file. Of course, he could have just played this move also, but a nice positional chess. He just gets off of the d file, avoiding any tactics that might come in the future. Now, here's an example in this game, right, as a side note, where the passed pawns, excuse me, the double pawns are actually good. Because now this pawn on c4 has moved forward and makes the grip on d5 even stronger for white. Okay, so once a piece goes there, there's no way that black can really have a satisfactory answer. If he trades on d5, then white is going to have a passed pawn and black will be forced to set up some type of blockade against it. Conversely, white has allowed an outpost opportunity, right? But here's the caveat to that. The other double pawn comes into play and can now play c3 and keep black from getting into his territory. So white can enter black's territory, but black cannot enter into white's territory. And we can see again as a subplot here, the black knights still haven't figured out where to go. Right? They haven't found a home. Knight d7. And now bishop b2, putting some pressure here on the e pawn. So this stops the circuit of black, right? Of this knight going anywhere, maybe b6, but perhaps if that bishop wasn't on b2, the knight probably might want to go here, here and here in the fantasy world. But again, since this pawn is double, this idea is out of the picture, right? That would be a great outpost for the knight. Say if this pawn was here, right? So after bishop b2, f6 is played. This solidifies the pawn and frees this knight up to move. Botvinnik plays f4, hitting this e pawn and putting tremendous pressure on this diagonal. And also it keeps this knight here a little bit longer. Panov played rook d8. If e takes f4, then g takes f4 and knight h5. f5. I still like white's game after this move here. f5, for example, bishop f7 and knight d5, and we could see like the white position coming to life. Queen d6, let's say rook a d1, and then maybe a move like knight f4. And let's just say queen e3 here. And I like this position for white. Panov played rook d e8 in the position. Botvinnik just moved the other rook to d1. Of course, again, he could have threw that knight in there, but he's being very patient and he just keeps playing in the center. That's one thing I notice about Botvinnik's games is his dedication to the center. He just keeps playing in the center and just building up the position and the control in that part of the board. This is a really beautiful position for white here. b6. Real simple chess is rook d2. And now Panov starts to panic a little bit. He captures. And he's trying to make something happen. And now he plays g5. This is all about trying to create an outpost. He wants to be able to put this knight somewhere. And the whole game, he's never been able to find a suitable place for these knights. F takes g5, F takes g5, and now he just plays e5. So even he just takes more scope away from the knights. So now the knight can't even move except back to b8. Knight can't go to f6 or anything. So now queen f7. And now finally Botvinnik jumps in with d7. I'm sorry, knight d5. Knight h5. Finally an outpost. Rook f1. Knight f4. So finally, after all of these moves, this knight gets somewhere. And of course, Botvinnik does not trade this powerful knight off. He just simply plays queen to e4. Queen f5 is played. There's an error here, probably. I mean, white is still better here, but queen, maybe bishop f5 here. But black is still in some hot water here. So let's say if queen e3, bishop e6, and then move like queen g3. And you can see the weakness over here on the king side here. And let's say queen, I don't know, g7, right, to protect this pawn here. Then just simply knight takes here. And let's say rook takes. Rook takes. And you had this nice combination here. Rook takes the end, and notice the power of the bishop comes through. The bishop is very strong. After bishop takes d7, then you have this discover check e6. So just a sample variation of what could happen, and to show you how powerful the bishops can be in a position. So it's hard to see what Panov could have done at this point. Very difficult position for him. So queen f5 was played off in the ending. Queen takes, bishop takes, and now knight takes f4, g takes f4. Again, the bishops just light up the position. King g7, and of course, Panov didn't want to do that, but that's when you know good chess is being played, when your opponent is just pretty much forced to do your bidding. After all, if he were to blockade this pawn, then you just simply take here, and the knight would fall. Knight is no longer protected. This is why he had to do king g7, so he had to kind of basically walk to his own execution here. e6 now. Knight f6. It looks good, but after rook takes f4, now the bishop is attacked. And of course, if bishop g6, then just rook g2. So king g6 happened, rook g2 check, knight g4. So you can see the idea with king g6 was to get out of this pin here and also protect. So king g6, rook g2 check, knight g4, and of course h3 is possible. Botvinnik decided to just play real simple. Bishop takes rook takes g4, bishop takes g4, rook takes, king f5, rook g3, and I like this combination at the end, rook g8 and bishop g7 here, rook e7, and then Botvinnik plays bishop f8, just a nice move. Of course, Panov had to resign here. If rook takes f8, then just simply rook f3, which would pick up the rook. And if rook takes g3, then just simply h takes g3, and there's really no answer to this pass pawn and this bishop here. So for instance, rook e8, then just e7, king f6, and then this rook is just gonna eventually have to sacrifice itself. So after bishop f8, Panov saw this and just resigned. So that was the first game I'm gonna do in the series. Looking at the games in Botvinnik's prime, and like I said, first we're gonna look at the games with the white pieces. So I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please click all the buttons down below, the like and subscribe and all of that stuff, just to help move the video up in the algorithm so that videos come to the forefront. A lot of good content on the channel, over 500 videos, all different types of subjects, playlists. Check the links below. I put videos and books if you still read books on chess, but DVDs. Basically, whatever opening that occurred on the board, I try to put a DVD or book related to that opening in case you want to do further research and study on that. All right, so hope to hear your comments on this game and about Botvinnik in general. Like, he doesn't, to me, get enough props. I guess he wasn't as flashy and as spectacular, but he was a world champion for a very long time, right? Although his reign was a little bit interrupted, but he kept winning the title back. And he has a lot of great games, and I think he's an example of a hard working chess player. He wasn't like super talented as far as like a child prodigy or anything, like Capablanca or somebody like that, or a Tile, but just super hard working player, very smart, logical, and his play shows that. So Hope you enjoyed that video, and I will see you on the next one.